In this video, we will do a deep dive into the two primary factors the guidelines use to determine a defendant's recommended sentence length and type of sentence: criminal history and offense severity group. This video will also discuss how these two factors relate to the function of the DC Voluntary Sentencing Guidelines. My name is Brittany Bunch, the Outreach Specialist at the DC Sentencing Commission. We are the agency that implements, monitors, and supports the application of the District of Columbia Voluntary Sentencing Guidelines. In our previous video, we discussed the history of DC sentencing and the creation of the Voluntary Sentencing Guidelines. Be sure to check out that video. The link is below. If you're interested in learning more about criminal history scores and offense severity groups and how they relate to the DC Voluntary Sentencing Guidelines, then you'll enjoy this video. Keep watching. The sentencing guidelines were designed to assist judges when imposing felony sentences and to ensure similar defendants who have been convicted of similar offenses receive similar sentences. The guidelines help ensure that felony sentences in the district are not based on ethnicity and/or race, religion, political affiliations, gender, and/or sexual orientation. The DC Voluntary Sentencing Guidelines are composed of two grids which provide judges with felony sentencing recommendations. These grids are called the Master Grid and the Drug Grid. In our next video, we will do a deeper dive into these two grids. These grids calculate sentencing recommendations based on the severity of the offense committed and the criminal history of the individual being sentenced. Let's get started. First up is criminal history score. A defendant's criminal history score is based on their prior convictions. Prior convictions can be scored regardless of where they occurred within the United States, whether in the district, in federal court, or in another state. The guidelines quantify criminal history by assigning each individual being sentenced a criminal history score. A criminal history score is the total number of points a defendant accumulates for their prior convictions and/or prior adjudications. The score is based on several factors, including the number of prior convictions, the severity of the prior convictions, and how long ago the individual completed their sentence for the prior conviction. Criminal history scores range from 0 to 6 or more points and are organized within 5 columns on both the master and drug grids. These columns are lettered A through E. Individuals with very little or no criminal history will fall in column A, or criminal history group A. If an individual has a criminal history score that falls within criminal history group E, that individual has a more extensive criminal history, either due to their number of prior offenses or the severity of their prior offenses. Next up is offense severity group. The Commission has classified most DC felony offenses into groups based on the seriousness of the offense and the maximum sentence allowed by law. Offenses of similar severity, as measured by the Commission's understanding of typical offenses in historical sentencing, will be placed in the same group. These groups are called offense severity groups. There are 9 offense severity groups on the master grid, called master groups. Master Group 1 houses the most severe offenses, such as first-degree murder. On the other hand, Master Group 9 includes less severe offenses, such as receiving stolen property and fraud. There are 4 offense severity groups on the drug grid, called drug groups. Drug Group 1 contains the most severe felony drug offenses, such as distribution of a controlled substance while armed, whereas Drug Group 4 houses less severe felony drug offenses, such as attempted distribution of marijuana over half a pound and certain other drugs. A full list of DC felony offenses and their offense severity group are listed in the appendix of the Guideline Manual. There is also a chart that allows for the calculation of offense severity group if the Commission has not yet ranked the offense. This chart is based on the offense's maximum penalty. The offense severity group for the convicted offense and an individual's criminal history score both play an important role when making sentencing decisions. However, judges may rely on other factors to determine the sentence for a specific individual. The DC Voluntary Sentencing Guidelines are not mandatory. Judges can impose any legal sentence that takes into consideration the statutory minimum or mandatory minimum if applicable, and the statutory for the offense being sentenced. It is also important to note that in certain limited instances, a judge will have to sentence a defendant outside the otherwise applicable sentencing range to comply with the maximum statutory or mandatory penalty set out by the statute. There are also other factors that can affect sentencing. When you see sentences that are higher than the recommended sentence range, they may be associated with aggravating factors. When you see sentences that are lower than the recommended sentencing range, they may be associated with mitigating factors. The Commission pursues activities that further its mission to implement, monitor, and support the district's voluntary sentencing guidelines and promote fair and consistent sentencing policies. We strive to increase public understanding of sentencing policies and practices, as well as evaluate the effectiveness of the guidelines to recommend changes based on actual sentencing and corrections practice and research. The public is encouraged to contact the Commission with any inquiries about the guidelines or questions concerning training opportunities. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel right now. Just click on the subscribe button below this video. Also, be sure to check out our website at scdc.dc.gov and follow us on our social media accounts. Links are in the description box below. Stay tuned for our next video. We will be exploring the master and drug grid.